What if I told you the people who hurt you didn't break you? They secretly taught you your power. Every betrayal, every heartbreak was a blueprint for strength. And in the next few minutes, I'm going to show you how to turn your pain into unstoppable boundaries and unshakable self-respect. The people who hurt you didn't arrive in your life by accident. Every interaction, every betrayal, take it back. Every moment of disappointment was a lesson disguised as pain. At first, it feels unfair, like the world is punishing you for being vulnerable, for trusting too much, or for caring too deeply. But the truth is that pain is never random, it is purposeful. It illuminates the cracks you didn't even know existed, the areas where you've allowed others to cross without consequence. When someone hurts you back, it's not just their action, it's a mirror reflecting where you have neglected yourself. Each cut, each sting, each moment of rejection is a spotlight on your boundaries or the lack thereof. That pain is a teacher disguised as a storm, testing your resilience, your patience, and your awareness. And if you pay attention, if you listen closely, it doesn't break you. It reshapes you. It forces you to confront truths about yourself you might have been too afraid to see. Pain forces awareness in a way comfort never can. When life is easy, when everyone behaves as expected, it's tempting to remain oblivious. But the people who hurt you strip away that illusion. They reveal the limits you didn't know were being crossed. They show you the moments where you were compromising too much, giving too much, forgiving too easily. And that revelation is the first step toward growth. It's the point where you realize that discomfort is not a threat. It is an invitation. The sting of betrayal or insult becomes a tool, sharpening your perception. Each hurt becomes a signal to examine your life, to recognize patterns, to understand your triggers. Pain forces honesty in ways that praise and comfort cannot. It strips away pretense, leaving only the raw material for transformation. Every time someone violates your trust, it is data, not damage. This is a mindset shift, and it is subtle but powerful. The hurt itself is not the enemy, your interpretation of it is. You can see pain as a mark of weakness, or you can see it as a blueprint for self-protection. The people who hurt you were never meant to stay. They were meant to teach. And when you shift your perspective, you see the strategy hidden in the chaos. Each betrayal, each disappointment, each conflict carries instructions what to accept, what to reject, and what to redefine. Life begins to make sense when you start to treat pain as a curriculum. Instead of retreating into resentment, you analyze. Instead of shutting down, you observe. Instead of repeating old mistakes, you extract lessons. The greatest teachers rarely hand you the answers. They put you in situations that demand them. Pain is experiential education, and it is relentless. The moment someone hurts you, your natural instinct might be to blame, to shame, or to escape. But if you remain present, you begin to notice patterns. You notice how often certain behaviors appear, how people test your limits, and where you consistently compromise your integrity. These moments are invitations to rewrite the rules you live by. They are the universe's way of showing you where your boundaries are weak. When the discomfort hits, it signals a necessary shift. You can either ignore it, allowing the cycle to continue, or you can embrace it, using it to create stronger frameworks for your emotional life. Pain is both alarm and guide if you are willing to follow its direction. It is through hurt that self-awareness grows. You begin to understand your triggers, your values, and your non-negotiables. Every time someone crosses a line, you learn more about yourself. You discover the behaviors you will no longer tolerate and the standards you must uphold. Pain draws a map of your inner world, showing which areas are fertile for growth and which are vulnerable to exploitation. The clarity that comes from hurt is rare, and without it, many people wander through life blind to their own boundaries. It gives you insight into what empowerment truly means, knowing that your value is not determined by how others treat you, but by how you respond to treatment. Each one becomes a marker, guiding you to become more intentional, more strategic, more unshakable. The people who hurt you also teach resilience. Pain tests your ability to remain strong when the world is unkind, when expectations are broken, and when trust is violated. Each painful encounter challenges your emotional stamina, forcing you to adapt, to grow, and to withstand discomfort. You learn that strength is not absence of sensitivity. It is the ability to maintain clarity and composure despite it. Hurt teaches you to rise even when you feel low. It teaches you to set limits even when it feels uncomfortable. It teaches you that the power lies not in revenge, not in retaliation, but in measured, conscious response. This is the hidden curriculum of life. Take it back. Those who endure pain with reflection become the ones who master themselves. Hurt also sharpens your empathy. When you recognize how deeply pain can cut, you gain perspective on others' struggles. You begin to understand that hurt is a universal language, and those who cause it often act from ignorance or their own wounds. But the key is to differentiate between understanding and excusing. Pain teaches discernment, how to respond with compassion without sacrificing your own boundaries. It teaches you to recognize patterns, predict behaviors, and protect your energy. It empowers you to engage with the world in a more deliberate way, choosing who deserves access to your life. The people who hurt you unwittingly train you to navigate relationships with intelligence and intention, blending strength with insight. Reflection becomes your superpower after pain. As the moments of hurt accumulate, you notice themes emerging. You notice repeated behaviors, recurring lessons, and areas where growth is required. Each emotional scar is a data point, each betrayal a case study. When you catalog these experiences, you start to see a framework forming, an invisible curriculum designed to make you wiser, stronger, and more resilient. You no longer live reactively, you start to live proactively, back learning to anticipate challenges and protect your energy. Pain transforms into insight, and insight transforms into mastery. You move from being a victim of circumstances to being an architect of your own life. Ultimately, the people who hurt you serve as mirrors to your own life. They illuminate weaknesses, expose tolerances, and challenge your assumptions. They force you to examine what you will accept and what you will no longer allow. And as you absorb these lessons, boundaries form naturally. You begin to recognize your worth, define your limits, back and protect your emotional space. Pain is the catalyst, but the response is the power. It is in this alchemy that transformation occurs. The discomfort becomes the blueprint, the lesson becomes the foundation, back, and the hurt becomes the forge in which your character is tempered. Growth always requires discomfort. Pain is the bridge between who you were and who you are capable of becoming. It is relentless, often unfair, and always inconvenient, but it is purposeful. Every moment of hurt, every betrayal, and every heartbreak carries instructions if you are willing to decode them. It forces you to confront your blind spots, examine your values, and clarify your boundaries. Without pain, you might never discover the strength, clarity, and resilience that lie within you. Back. The people who hurt you didn't just cause temporary suffering. They catalyzed lifelong lessons. They pushed you to examine yourself, your standards, and your limits in ways comfort never could. Each lesson is a stepping stone, each scar a badge of wisdom, and each boundary a sign of the strength you now claim. Boundaries are not walls to keep the world out. They are markers to protect what belongs to you. Back. They are the invisible lines that separate your energy, your time, and your emotions from unnecessary harm. Every time someone crosses a line, back, it is not a personal failure. It is a signal that your limits were unclear or unenforced. Boundaries define identity because they communicate what is acceptable and what is not. Back. They teach people how to treat you without needing to argue or negotiate every single interaction. The people who hurt you did not succeed because they were stronger. They succeeded because your limits were flexible. Back. Once you understand this, you realize that boundaries are not selfish. They are essential. They are the practical expression of self-respect. Each boundary you set becomes a declaration you matter. You deserve clarity, safety, and intentionality in how you engage with the world. Setting boundaries is a skill that requires both courage and precision. It is easy to confuse kindness with weakness and generosity with vulnerability. Back. But boundaries allow you to be kind without being exploited. They let you give without losing yourself. Boundaries are statements of standards, and standards are the framework of personal power. Back. Every hurtful experience is a lesson in where your standards should have been higher. You learn to discern between people who add value and those who deplete it. The people who crossed your lines were, in effect, back, your instructors, teaching you where firmness was missing. Boundaries transform the chaos of human behavior into a map for self-preservation. They are not punishment for others, they are protection for you. Back. And protection is the soil from which growth begins. Boundaries also cultivate emotional intelligence. When someone hurts you, it is tempting to react impulsively out of anger, sadness, or frustration. Back. But with clear boundaries, you develop the ability to pause, reflect, and respond intentionally. You learn to say no before resentment builds. You learn to disengage before unnecessary conflict escalates. Back. Every boundary you enforce is a practice in clarity and composure. They give you the power to choose where your energy goes and how it is spent. When someone tests your limits, back, it is an opportunity to strengthen your resolve, to refine the language of your self-respect. Boundaries teach discipline, which is the foundation of emotional mastery. And emotional mastery transforms reactive behavior into deliberate action. A key aspect of boundaries is their role in building self-worth. When you enforce limits, you communicate to yourself and others that your time, back, feelings, and well-being are valuable. Without boundaries, your value is constantly at the mercy of others' decisions. People who hurt you unintentionally expose this vulnerability. Each crossing of your line was an opportunity to notice where self-respect was negotiable. And when you establish boundaries, you stop allowing external circumstances to define your worth. Standards are internal declarations that prevent exploitation. They create a framework in which you operate with dignity. Over time, boundaries become an armor confidence, a tool that not only protects but empowers. Back, and empowerment grows stronger each time you say no without guilt or fear. Boundaries are also about clarity in relationships. They act as filters, distinguishing those who respect your limits from those who disregard them. Every person who has caused pain or crossed a line serves as a case study in relational dynamics. You begin to recognize patterns, back, to anticipate behavior, to navigate interaction strategically. Boundaries allow you to engage with intention rather than impulse. Back. They help you prioritize connections that align with your values and distance yourself from those that don't. Each reinforced boundary becomes a signal to the world about the level of respect you require. People learn quickly how far they can go, and you reclaim control over your environment. Control is not domination. It is the art of preserving your energy for what truly matters. Back. The process of establishing boundaries is also a process of self-discovery. It forces you to reflect on what you truly need, what you cannot compromise on, and where you are willing to give. Without testing your limits, you cannot know the strength of your standards. Every interaction that challenges your patience or crosses your line is an invitation to examine your values. Hurt becomes a mirror, back, showing exactly where your limits were blurred or ignored. Boundaries teach discernment, helping you distinguish between obligations, desires, and manipulations. They transform reactive living into intentional choices. The people who hurt you inadvertently accelerate this process, making you more strategic, more grounded, and more attuned to your own needs. In this way, boundaries are lessons in empowerment disguised as defense. Back boundaries also redefine freedom. Many people mistakenly think freedom is the ability to do anything at any time. True freedom, however, comes from knowing your limits and respecting them. Back boundaries liberate you from the tyranny of other people's expectations and demands. They allow you to engage with the world selectively, protecting your energy for growth, creativity, and meaningful connection. Back. Hurt teaches you the cost of living without limits, and boundaries show you the alternative. They are both shield and compass, keeping you safe while pointing toward the life you want to cultivate. Back when you establish and maintain boundaries, you experience the paradoxical effect of being more open yet more protected. Freedom grows in structure, and structure is the scaffolding for fulfillment. Back. Boundaries are not static. They evolve as you grow. What was once acceptable may no longer serve your development. Hurtful experiences teach you which boundaries need reinforcement and which require expansion. Each painful encounter is an opportunity to re-evaluate your framework and upgrade your standards. Over time, your boundaries become more precise, more resilient, and more aligned with your values. You become less reactive to external pressure and more responsive to your internal compass. Every person who crosses a line teaches you about the limits of tolerance, patience, and respect. Boundaries are iterative, evolving with your understanding of self-worth and the life you want to lead. The people who once hurt you unknowingly help you create a template for healthier interactions. Finally, boundaries transform pain into power. When you enforce limits, you take control of your narrative. You reclaim authority over your life, and you stop allowing others' choices to dictate your emotional state. Hurt is no longer a trap, but a tool. Each boundary is a declaration that you are no longer willing to tolerate disrespect, confusion, or exploitation. It is a roadmap for self-respect and a guide to intentional living. By learning from the people who hurt you, you build the ability to protect your energy, honor your standards, and engage with the world from a place of strength. Boundaries are both the shield and the sword in the art of personal growth, providing clarity, confidence, and control. Every time someone crosses your boundaries, it is an invitation to reclaim yourself. Saying no is not a sign of weakness, it is a declaration of self-respect. Each refusal is a vote for the person you want to become and the life you want to lead. Hurt teaches you that your value cannot be outsourced to anyone else. You cannot rely on others to recognize your worth if you don't recognize it yourself. Saying no trains your mind, your emotions, and your actions to align with your principles. It teaches you discipline, focus, and clarity. Every boundary enforced is a step toward owning your narrative. It is a commitment to honor your time, energy, and dignity. Saying no is how you transform pain into a shield of empowerment. The people who hurt you highlight where self-respect has been compromised. When trust is broken or kindness is taken for granted, you recognize the places you have allowed others to overstep. Saying no in these moments is a reclaiming act. It re-establishes your control and asserts your value. Each time you refuse to tolerate disrespect, you reinforce a standard that cannot be ignored. Boundaries are not about punishment. They are about education. They teach others how to treat you while simultaneously teaching you how to protect yourself. Saying no requires courage because it often means standing alone. It demands conviction and self-awareness, especially when the people around you expect compliance. Every no builds momentum, creating a foundation of self-trust. Over time, saying no becomes instinctive, a natural expression of inner strength and clarity. Self-respect grows exponentially with each decision to say no. It is not an abstract concept. It is an action repeated consistently. The world may challenge you, provoke you, or pressure you into compromise, but each refusal solidifies your identity. Hurtful experiences amplify the importance of this practice, showing you where your boundaries were weak or undefined. Saying no becomes a practice in discernment, teaching you to distinguish between necessity, obligation, and manipulation. Every boundary you enforce sharpens your understanding of your own limits. You learn to honor your emotional space, your time, and your values. The more you assert yourself, the less you depend on external validation. Saying no is a declaration of sovereignty, a statement that you are the custodian of your own life. It is through this practice that self-respect becomes unshakable. Each no you speak has ripple effects beyond the immediate situation. It signals to the world that you will no longer compromise your worth for convenience, approval, or comfort. Hurt shows you where your energy has been drained by people who disregard your values. Saying no is a redirection, channeling your energy into areas that uplift rather than deplete you. Every refusal becomes a blueprint for future interactions, a guide for how others are allowed to engage with you. The cumulative effect of these no's is the creation of an invisible protective framework. Back. People learn what is acceptable, and you learn how to navigate relationships intentionally. Saying no transforms reactive suffering into proactive empowerment. It teaches responsibility for your emotional life and accountability to yourself. Each no is both a boundary and a bridge to greater freedom. Hurt also teaches the value of timing and asserting no. Get back. There is power in pausing before responding, in weighing the implications of your words, and in asserting your limits deliberately. Impulsive refusals can create unnecessary conflict, but intentional no's establish respect without hostility. Each carefully considered no is a lesson in diplomacy, strategy, and composure. It allows you to respond rather than react. This skill grows with practice. And the people who hurt you are your trainers. They show you where your patience is tested and where your clarity is needed. Timing transforms a simple no into a statement of strength. It ensures that your boundaries are communicated effectively and respected consistently. Every measured no reinforces your identity and your authority over your own life. Every hurtful interaction is an opportunity to refine your assertiveness. You begin to recognize patterns of behavior, recurring situations, and repeated offenses. Saying no becomes a method for disrupting cycles that undermine your well-being. It is a tangible way to assert your autonomy in relationships, workplaces, and social circles. Each no teaches you to navigate discomfort without sacrificing your principles. The practice of refusal strengthens confidence, reinforces self-worth, and cultivates resilience. Every time you decline what does not serve you, you invest in your personal growth. The more intentional you become with your boundaries, the more empowered you feel. Hurt is transformed from a source of pain into a training ground for assertive action. And the habit of saying no becomes a cornerstone of disciplined living. Saying no also deepens self-awareness. It requires you to understand your values, priorities, and emotional needs. Each boundary tested by hurt forces introspection. What can I tolerate? What am I unwilling to compromise? What behaviors align with my principles? This self-reflection becomes a guide for every future interaction. Saying no is an exercise in clarity. It teaches you who you are, what you want, and what you will not allow. The people who hurt you accelerate this process by exposing areas where your self-knowledge is incomplete. Every refusal strengthens the bridge between your inner truth and your outward actions. Saying no becomes a tool of empowerment, shaping a life that is both intentional and resilient. It is the language of self, respect, and the framework of personal sovereignty. The habit of saying no empowers you to reclaim your emotional space. Hurt can leave lingering effects, anger, doubt, confusion, but boundaries allow you to process these experiences constructively. Saying no is not about pushing people away. It is about preserving your energy for what is meaningful. It ensures that your emotional resources are invested in situations that align with your values. Each refusal is a protective measure, preventing depletion and reinforcing stability. Hurt teaches you the cost of neglecting this practice, and saying no becomes your response. Over time, it develops into instinctual wisdom, guiding your choices and interactions. No becomes both shield and compass, preserving your integrity and directing your growth. The practice turns past pain into present empowerment. Finally, saying no consistently builds the foundation for long-term self-mastery. Each refusal reinforces the principle that your life is yours to govern. Hurtful experiences provide the context, showing you where compromise has been damaging. Saying no converts lessons learned from pain into tangible action. Every boundary enforced is a demonstration of your evolving strength. You become less reactive, more intentional, and more aligned with your principles. Each no cultivates resilience, wisdom, and discipline. The people who hurt you unknowingly train you to protect your values and honor your identity. Saying no is the repetition that cements self-respect, transforming hurt into enduring power. And as this habit grows, it becomes the backbone of an empowered, intentional life. The people who hurt you did not define who you are. They revealed what needed to change. Every betrayal, insult, or moment of disappointment was not a measure of your weakness, but a reflection of the lessons you had yet to learn. The moment someone crosses your limits, it forces you to see where you've allowed yourself to be vulnerable without protection. Hurt becomes a mirror, exposing the areas of your life where you have compromised, tolerated, or ignored your own value. You begin to understand that pain is not just an obstacle, it is a teacher. Every difficult interaction teaches discernment, patience, and the importance of self-respect. By examining the experiences of hurt, you gain insight into your standards, boundaries, and priorities. The people who caused suffering were unwitting instructors, showing you where strength was required. And in this realization, the power shifts from being acted upon to taking action. And what was meant to break you becomes the catalyst that shapes the person you are destined to become. Hurt illuminates the boundaries that were previously invisible. Before the pain, you might have been generous without limit, trusting without caution, and forgiving without consideration. Those who hurt you expose the consequences of unclear boundaries. Each violation is a signal pointing to the standards you must now set. You realize that your energy, time, and emotional resources are valuable, and they cannot be freely surrendered without discernment. The lessons of hurt are not punitive. They are directional. They teach you what to protect and where to assert yourself. Through reflection and adjustment, you reclaim authority over your own life. back. Every painful encounter becomes a blueprint for future interactions. And in that blueprint, you begin to see the architecture of resilience and self-mastery. By learning from hurt, back, and you transform vulnerability into insight and insight into strength. Each lesson of hurt teaches you the power of choice. You cannot control the actions of others, but you can control your response. Every experience of betrayal or mistreatment provides a decision point. Do you remain a victim or do you rise above? Choosing growth over resentment is not easy. It requires conscious effort, self-discipline, and courage. But each choice to respond intentionally rather than react impulsively strengthens your character. The people who caused pain did not realize they were giving you the opportunity to practice resilience, assertiveness, and wisdom. Through their actions, you learn that power is not in retaliation, but in measured response. You learn to reclaim your energy, your confidence, and your peace of mind. Hurt transforms from a trap into a tool, shaping the trajectory of your life. And every time you choose growth, you assert your authority over your own destiny. Hurt also teaches empathy, but with boundaries. When you experience pain, you gain insight into the human condition, the imperfections, the mistakes, and the failures that drive people to act poorly. But empathy does not mean accepting mistreatment. Instead, it becomes a lens through which you understand behavior without compromising your self-respect. Every painful experience trains you to recognize patterns, anticipate challenges, and navigate relationships strategically. You begin to engage with others intentionally, giving where it aligns with your values and withholding where it does not. Through this practice, you maintain compassion without sacrificing integrity. People who hurt you provide the contrast needed to develop discernment. And as you grow, empathy becomes a tool of empowerment, allowing you to act with wisdom rather than impulse. By balancing compassion with boundaries, you create healthier, more intentional connections. Reflection is the mechanism through which hurt becomes transformation. Every betrayal, disappointment, or insult carries hidden instruction. By examining the moments that caused pain, you uncover truths about your own values, limits, and desires. Hurt becomes a roadmap, showing exactly where your standards were weak or undefined. Each reflection allows you to identify patterns, understand motivations, and strategize your future actions. The people who caused suffering did not intend to provide guidance, but their actions inadvertently offered clarity. Through introspection, you convert emotional energy from resentment into insight. Reflection turns chaotic experiences into structured learning. And as you internalize these lessons, you gain the confidence to navigate life with foresight, awareness, and self-assuredness. Growth and transformation come from ownership of your narrative. Hurt shows you what was out of your control, but it also teaches you where agency exists. You learn that while others may test you, the ultimate power lies in your response. Each painful interaction gives you a choice to reclaim your voice, redefine your limits, and assert your values. By taking ownership, you move from a reactive existence to a proactive life. The people who hurt you unknowingly provide the lessons that empower this ownership. You begin to understand that your identity is not contingent on others' behavior, but on your ability to respond with clarity and strength. Each lesson internalized becomes a cornerstone for resilience. And in this ownership, you find freedom, the freedom to live on your terms, guided by your principles rather than the actions of others. Hurt also accelerates self-discipline and emotional mastery. It forces you to confront uncomfortable feelings, manage impulses, and maintain composure under pressure. Every act of mistreatment is a test of patience, clarity, and strategic thinking. You learn to respond deliberately, not reactively, cultivating strength of character that cannot be taught in comfort. The people who cause pain serve as the context, while your response becomes the proof of mastery. Through repeated practice, you internalize the lessons of endurance, self-control, and resilience. Emotional mastery becomes a natural extension of the wisdom gained from hurt. And as you refine this skill, you discover that the power to thrive is inherent, waiting only for your conscious activation. Boundaries and self-respect are inseparable lessons from pain. The hurt teaches you what you will no longer tolerate, and boundaries translate that lesson into action. You learn to enforce limits without guilt, to assert needs without fear, and to honor yourself without apology. Every hurtful experience becomes a guide for constructing a life of intentionality and integrity. The people who caused pain were the catalysts, but the real transformation occurs in how you respond, adjust, and grow. You cultivate discernment, resilience, and clarity, shaping the life you desire. Boundaries are no longer a defensive tool. They are the foundation of strength. By integrating these lessons, you rise above past pain and construct a framework for empowerment, confidence, and peace. Ultimately, the hurt you experienced did not define you. It refined you. Every painful encounter, every betrayal, and every disappointment was a lesson in disguise. The people who caused suffering were unwitting instructors, shaping your understanding of boundaries, self-respect, and emotional mastery. Through reflection, intentional response, and boundary enforcement, you transform pain into insight and insight into power. Hurt becomes fuel for growth rather than a source of limitation. By internalizing these lessons, you develop resilience, clarity, and self-assurance. The life you build after pain is stronger, wiser, and more purposeful than the life before it. And in this transformation, you realize that what once seemed like suffering was, in truth, the blueprint for your greatest strength. Pain does not break you. It teaches you how to stand taller, stronger and more unshakable than ever before.